Hello everyone, welcome back to Center Stand Mechanics. My name is Kyle, and today I'm going to be working on a couple of videos. This one being, I'm going to try to explain how this transmission works the best way I can. It's not going to be too technical, but I've got it apart anyways, and I thought some of you guys might want to kind of see how it actually works and stuff if you're not too familiar with it. I'm not an expert on it or anything. I just, just by looking at it and watching videos and stuff, I've kind of got a little bit of a grip on it. But I've got it all apart, so I thought, why not make a video? I'm also working on another video where I'm putting the whole thing together, and you might see footage between the two videos overlap and stuff. It's just I'm trying to, build it and explain it at the same time. But this one's going to be just for explaining how it goes here. I've got all the pieces here all cleaned up for the most part, just laid out here and ready to go on the engine. I've got the two halves here. This is actually should be flipped upside down. This is the top side of the engine case, and to install everything you need it flipped over, but I gotta put these in first before I flip it over. And here's the bottom half of the case right here. It's all cleaned up and ready to go. So I'll be putting that on pretty soon. So I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can. And it's actually not that complex. It's this is a good engine to show you guys on because it's fairly basic. It's complex enough that you got to make sure you put everything in correctly and this, that, the other thing. But it's not too hard to screw up. If you watch my other video when I'm putting it together, you'll probably see what I mean. It's things kind of just go in the the correct way. They don't really, there's not really too much you can screw up on this. But yeah, anyways, let's get started. I got my hands free here, and I was thinking of the best way to explain this to you guys, and then I thought, well, you might as well just start from the beginning and how it all. So we got the crankshaft here. And this gear here is actually for the starter to engage this little piece here. And when it gets turned, it throws this piece out like that. And then it's actually it's over, which way here? It kind of goes like over on this side here. And it comes out and it shoots in and connects with this gear here. And then the whole thing turns the engine over, and that's what this gear's for. And then as far as the power, like what actually turns your back wheel, it all comes from this gear here. And so this slips on here, and it's actually keyed. It's got this little rectangle kind of shape Woodruff key here. I'm not sure if that's the correct term for it. It's a keyway anyways, and there's another. So if I turn this around, if you look right here, this key kind of slides in there, and then this gear slips over. It's kind of a precise fit, so it'll get stuck on there. So I'll just take the key off anyways. You get the idea. This slips on there like so. And then so when the crank turns, this gear turns. Okay, so your power is coming from here, or rotational energy, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And then so you got your clutch basket here, right? You got your outer piece and your inner piece, and there's a bushing bearing thing that goes in here so they don't touch, but basically they can turn independent of each other, and they sit on this first gear. Actually, there's a bush thing here. It goes in first. And then this will sit on here like so. Alright. So this sits on here like so. And when it does, it's always connected to this gear, which comes off the crankshaft here. Right, so this sits right in here like so, and it's just always connected. So it's gear driven, you know, it's a gear driven transmission. Whereas some engines have like what's called like a primary chain, and the crankshaft is chained to this set of gears. Or in like, you know, say scooters or something, this will be like a variator pulley, and then it'll be a belt drive to the clutch, and then you got your reduction gear to your wheel and stuff. So there's different ways of making this happen. And but for this engine, it's gear driven. So this goes in here and it's always connected. And if the clutch is, like if you got the clutch pulled in, this is just spinning by itself and the center is not turning yet, right? Like this doesn't, so if your clutch is in, this is just spinning around with the engine, right? And then that's where this piece comes in. And this is your inner clutch basket. This one is actually, it's got splines on it and it fits into that shaft. So now this piece of the clutch is connected to all these gears. So if I turn it, right, it's turning all the shaft and everything. But this thing, this outer basket is actually independent of that. So your engine's running like this. Let me make sure I got a good view. So when your engine's running, this is always spinning around like this. And then when you let the clutch out, through these friction plates here, clutch plates and friction plates, I'll show you in a minute how they go in. So when you let the clutch out, then this outer piece of the clutch and this inner piece become one, and then the whole transmission starts to spin, and that's when you move forward, right? Because then it's connected to these other gears, and then your rear sprocket goes on here, and then the whole thing gets into motion. And you know, it's pretty common knowledge. Most of you guys know all this stuff, but I just thought I'd start from the beginning here. And so how these plates go on, so you see these little nubs on the outside. That's how this plate keys into the outer part of the basket, right? So now it becomes part of this outer basket. And then this plate here, it's got these little splines, and then they're keyed into the centerpiece here, like so. And so it turns with the centerpiece, and that black disc turns with the outer piece. And then you got a whole series of them here, right? You got, I think there's, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 black ones and 6 of the silver ones. So they all go on, and then, so they're stacked in there, and then this is the last piece that goes on. And then this is held in with some springs. I don't have them here. And then this is bolted together with this spring here. And this bolt goes down. And so when this is all together, this is squeezed together by this spring pressure, right? So it's always one until you pull in the clutch with your lever, and then there's a rod. This rod here actually goes right through here. There's actually a series of rods on this engine, but some engines just have one big long rod and it goes out. So picture this coming from this side all the way through the center of this, right? And then it actually pokes out here, right? And on this particular one, there's another piece right here. It's got this little it's kind of like a little bushing end, this little flat side. It actually sits like so, and so when you pull in the clutch, it actually actuates a cam on this other side down here and pushes this like this and turn this thing, and this whole basket opens up and allows these two halves to spin independently, and that's where you're able to sit there at a light or whatever, or you know, you can have the thing in gear with your clutch pulled in and the thing's allowed to turn. And then if you let your clutch out, and as you let it out, the more and more friction, and then this here clamps together with the spring pressure. So the spring pressure is clamping this together, and then the whole transmission starts turning. I hope that kind of explains it. It's hard to hold all these pieces, and you know, but that's how that works, right? So I'll take this one back off. And there's a couple of plates in here. And this is pretty typical for most motorcycle clutches, especially, you know, anything modern like it. I think if you go way back in the early days, there's probably different types. There's probably like dry clutches and stuff, and you know, those probably work, do a similar thing, but they you know, they probably work a little differently. So I'll take this one off. Okay, put that over there, and yeah. So here we're back to this shaft here. So that's that. So if you take this one, this is the center one. So when it becomes whole, this whole thing is geared onto there. Then it starts turning the transmission. Okay. So now you got all these gears. And you're probably thinking, oh man, what's going on here? And you can kind of look at this like this. I kind of look at this, think of it like an abacus, you know, when you got all your little beads up here and this one here, and your multiple, like you're adding and subtracting, kind of like that in a way. But so this thing from this side is always turning what the engine's doing, and to make it turn this faster, you can have different size gears. So basically, first gear would use this smallest one, right? Gives you the advantage, and it would connect into the largest one on here. So first gear would be like connected to this one. And then when you make your shifts, these shift gears slide side to side, right? There's 3 of them on this transmission. Some transmissions just have the 2. I'm not too familiar with other types, but they kind of all work on this premise where, you know, you got these, and then here's your shift fork, right? And then it goes down. I'm not exactly sure how it's this side or this side, but it goes in here basically, and it's like these little fingers, and it shifts the gear back and forth. So these shift forks sit on this shift drum, and this actually goes right here. Yeah, almost got a little burr on it for some reason. I'll have to fix that, but let's pick a different one. So you take this, and I'm not exactly sure how this goes in, but it, you know, this goes in here. So, you know, it's looking like that. And then these shift forks, there's 3 of them on this engine, and they go like so, and they're shifting back and forth, making these gears, you know, click into the right spot. And how it's happened, if you look at this shift drum, so when it's got 5 spots plus a neutral, right? The neutral spot being this little dent right here, and this little dent here is for your neutral light. Where's that piece? So this piece here, this is your neutral light switch, and it goes up into the casting. It actually goes like this from the top when it's in the bike, and when this comes around, it pushes on this little switch here, and then that makes your neutral light come on, like so. So that's neutral. This little indent here is also a neutral, like kind of like a finder. So you got that little click, and that's what this is. This is how you get that little, you know, that feeling when this turns around. That's neutral. Okay, and then this thing here kind of rides in these grooves. You see these little pins that this thing turns around, and then this thing makes it like gives it slots, so when it turns, that's how you get those feeling where you're going click 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 through the gears. That's this thing falling into the slots here. And then this part out here, it's got the pins go through into here, and then this is your shift shaft, and it goes on to, and so you see these little barbs here on here. When you're flicking this with the pedal, it's turning this, and so every time you're shifting a gear, it's going choot choot. This thing is pushing this around. It's pushing or pulling like that. I mean, it's kind of hard to show you while it's in my hand. It'd be easier when it's installed in the engine. But you know, you put your foot on here, and it rotates this a little bit forwards and backwards, right? Shifting up for up gears and shifting down that way for, and then that's how this rotates. Okay, so this is like a gear selector portion of the transmission. And then these grooves, you see how there's 3 sets of these grooves, because you got 3 shifting forks. You got 3 of these selector gears in here, right? That slide side to side. Okay, and so depending on when this rotates, this pin is in, I'll show you in a minute. This pin rides in here, and as this turns, you know, it follows this groove. So this one, say in the middle here, as it's turning, it's following the groove, and it's causing this to you know, to go side to side as it's turning, if you know what I mean. So as you're shifting gears, this thing, and it's because of this pin that's in here. See if I drop that down. See if I can poke that in there. Right? So as you're turning, see how that's how you're shifting your gears. It's actually shifting side to side. Right? So if I just hold it like this, you'll see what I mean. Right? And that's how that works. Okay, and then, so to get that out, you gotta, it's a little tricky to get out. No. So, and these, so if you look at it like this, you can see in there, see how it kind of sticks through? Right? It kind of sticks through, drops into the groove, and then that's how it follows that groove back and forth. Kind of like a needle on a record, if you know what I mean. And then, so to keep that in place, so when you install this on the bike, for this particular engine and model, I'm sure there's different ways of doing this, but for this one, if you're building one of these XS650 engines, this pin drops down into here, and then you spread it apart accordingly. You wrap the ends around here, and then that prevents this pin from moving upward. Right? It can't drop down because the drum's in the way. And then, you know, in order to get it out, you got to take this cotter pin out, and this has to come up through, you know, it's got to come up through here like this, and that's how you take it apart. You know, put it back together. You know, you just kind of feed that down, put this cotter pin in, and then that's, you know, that's in place. Okay. And then, there's, you know, three, that's how the three of them go together. There's three pins, three shifting forks. So when these are installed on the bike, and this is together like this, when it's in neutral, these are always spinning together. Like, you'll see it when it's installed. You'll turn this, and there's ones that just sit on here and just turn. It allows us to spin in neutral. And then there's ones that are actually, you know, spline connected to the shaft that slide on the splines and actually make the shaft turn. And you know, when you click it into gear and you hear that grind, like it goes grind or chunk into gear. It's not these gears grinding that you're hearing. It's these dogs, what are called dogs, when they slip. It's probably hard to see. I'll try to get close. This dog clicks into a hole on this gear here, and you're most likely hearing this crunch into place, right? And that crunch over time will wear out these dogs. And if you look at them closely, they're some of them are shaped a little differently, but this one's pretty good for explaining. If you look at them really closely, they're kind of undercut. Like, they're like, this part here isn't flat. It's kind of slightly on an angle, and the same with this one here. So when they, like, the, you know, so when they slide together, and then you bring on the torque, when you give it, they kind of bind together. And if they were shaped like that and you brought on the torque, they would slip apart. And that's what happens over time. Like, from always grinding these together, and you hear that crunch in the gear, crunch, 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 you're actually wearing out these dogs. And then the more they wear out, the more you're trying to force it into gear. And then these the tips of these shifting forks actually either get bent or worn down from just constantly pressing against the thing, because it's always slipping out of gear or whatever, or, you know, it's getting abused. And then so what happens over time is that undercut starts to wear down, and it actually starts to become flat, and then actually starts to wear the other way. And then when you bring on the torque, it pops it out of gear, if you know what I mean. Like, you probably experienced that on some bike at some point. You know, you click it in the fifth gear or whatever, and it's always like, man, and you hit like a false neutral, and you're like, damn it, click it back into gear, go again. But if you're not easy on the throttle, it'll pop out again, right? That's most likely a worn out dog, right? And that's something that wears out and should be checked. Most of these dogs look pretty good. I think these ones were okay. They kind of look a little bit worn on this side. This build is going to be a budget build, so I'm not going to try and change it. But I think if you'd probably change this out, and then to do that, you would probably take all this off. There'd be like a circlip. You could slip this gear off, you know, take this one off, put a new one on, you know, and put the whole thing together. If you don't have to do that, I don't recommend taking these apart, because they're very particularly put together. And if you do end up taking one of these apart, I mean, it happens. You gotta change fourth gear or fifth gear or whatever. I would be very, very methodical. Like, I'd take a part out and lay them down in order with the way they go back on, and, you know, and probably videotape it or take pictures, you know, look at, you know, parts, schematics, or, you know, diagrams or whatever you want to call it, just to make sure that this all goes back together properly. It can be done, you just got to be careful with it. For the most part, these are pretty good. I rode this bike all summer, this summer, and I didn't have any problems with it, you know, slipping out of fifth gear. But I did have problems with it going into neutral, into first. Not quite sure why that is. This transmission was seized when I got this engine. Well, the bike, the engine was seized, and I had like one cylinder. If you look back to my first series of the Ultimate Zombie Apocalypse bike, I unseized the engine just to get it apart. I had to beat the pistons out. I ended up smashing a hole through one, and this transmission was seized too, and you can kind of see evidence of how it was rusted up. It's all cleaned up now and looking pretty good, but you know, even on these shifting forks, you can kind of see remnants of how it was rusted. It's pitted here and stuff. You know, it's probably going to work just fine. I've taken this all apart and cleaned everything, and it's not perfect, but you know, for a zombie engine, it's pretty good. I'm definitely changing. This is a crank out of a different engine. I'm gonna put this crank in. It's in better shape, and I'll rebuild the bad one and put it in a good engine. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. And so what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna start putting this engine together, and at certain points when I can show you kind of how the shift forks work and stuff, I'll add that footage, and then you can kind of see you know, what it looks like when it's together and working, and hopefully, you know, all together and yeah, and working good. All right, there. So now those are all in, and then you can rotate the see how they shift back and forth. That's what you want to see. So first would be down here, and then you go, you know, second, third, fourth, and then fifth. Yeah. So again, so neutral would be somewhere in here, I'm thinking, and then so it'll be first. So you see how this clicks over into first, neutral. This one goes into second, and then third, fourth. That's one moves into fourth, and then fifth. Yeah, so that's looking really good. It's gliding nicely. No problems there. So I'll put it down into what I believe is neutral, somewhere around there. That's like that. Transmission's in there. You can tell it's in neutral because I'm holding. This is where the sprocket goes, and I'm holding it. And then if you want to see it work, so this is where the clutch basket goes on, and when you release the clutch, this starts turning, and where are we in here? So we're in neutral right now because I can hold the sprocket side back. Now if you go into first, this dog is going to slide into this and start turning it back here. So I think so. First should be there. Yeah. So there's first. and second, so it's neutral, and then second. Yeah, second's working. There's third. Yeah, and then fourth. Yeah, and then fifth. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool. Well, I hope that helps explain how the transmission works, and for most motorcycles, that's kind of the premise on how they work. You know, it's not too technical of an explanation, but you know, kind of the basics of it all. You know, it's not too difficult to work on, but it is. You know, you definitely want to pay attention on how things are going, and overlook everything and make sure everything looks good before you put it in, because it's so much harder to get, you know, tear it all back apart again. Yeah, I encourage you to check out my Ultimate Zombie Apocalypse bike build series. It's kind of a fun little series I've been doing. I got season 1 from last year, and then I'm working on season 2 right now. And if you look at my recent video on that series, you'll see me put this transmission together and get it all buttoned up. I'm going to do a couple of different videos of putting this engine together and getting it ready to put back in the bike. So it should be fun, some fun videos to watch, and I encourage you to like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out. I appreciate it very much, and I want to thank you for watching. Hopefully see you again real soon. Center Stand Mechanics out.